Hello, I'm back. Too funny. The parcel was the courier and it was a parcel of pet food. Do you think those dogs are that smart that they knew their biscuits had just been delivered? I don't know. I tell you. It's interesting. Anyway, where were we? Prepped goodies, we've talked about that. The little ephemera of folder is coming along. So I ended up adding some more calico to this spine here and on that side, and then I stitched around with my sewing machine, and I did the perimeter first, and then I just did some lines straight down either side of that fabric just to make sure it's all secure. So I'm happy with that. Now my pockets, all I did here was just a little running stitch around, so we've got our little tuck at the front and our pocket is ready to attach. So I'm just going to use some art glitter glue and attach that. So I haven't yet cut out all the fussy cut elements. I must do that. But the little ephemera folio we'll call it, is coming along. I went digging for some ribbon too to use as my closure. So I just found a nice red ribbon. There's so much of it around at the moment for sale in all of the cheap shops, so you shouldn't have too much trouble finding a red ribbon, or you could just use twine. Could use whatever you want or whatever you've got in your stash. Okay, so that art glitter glue will grab that. Now the other thing I wanted to do is attach the ribbon. Just give that a moment to grab. I'd rather just take a moment to ensure that that's adhered than rush it. So just leave that flat. So the plan is to attach this little ribbon here. Now I need something decorative to go over it. Where's my fussy cut bits and pieces? Let's see if there's something in amongst this. Oh, there's a stamp. How cute are you? That's a definite idea. You could even use like a to and a from, because then you're gifting it to someone. You could write their name there. Or do I do a stamp? How much space have I actually got? And that's folded. Just want to make sure it fits. No, stamp's a little bit big. The to and from's probably a bit big. What else could I use? Special delivery would look. I'm liking a special delivery. Yeah, I'm going to use the special delivery. I'm going to cut that out from there. Put that back out of the way. I do want to start planning in this video the stitchery for the front of the journal, but I do just want to finish off a couple of these little elements because they sort of help me organise my space as well. Will that fit there? Yes, it will. So the plan is to glue that into position and then that over the top of it. But I think I want to embellish this a little bit more, so it needs to be probably a little stronger. So I might find a scrap of cardstock, just something to put under it. There'll be something in my scraps here. Of course I can't find anything. Piece of card. find my glue stick for looking. Where's my glue stick? Oh, it's over near the sewing machine. Hold that moment of thought. Okay. So let's just do something with this little word. Let's get it reinforced with a bit of strength so that as hands, little fingers play with it or ourselves, it's holding its own structure-wise and not getting all dog-eared. So I'm going to tuck it into the corner. So now it's nice and strong. Exactly what I did with the wax seal. Just backed it with a bit of card. So it's nice and strong. Now, what I might do is actually now put some fabric behind it, some calico, because that would make a nice furry little element. So like that. Okay, so we need to snip and rip this to the right size. Gosh, I used some calico. If you don't have muslin or calico in your supplies, it's just such a handy medium to have, because you can use it to back things, wrap things, stitch on it. It's just one of those things that I use all the time. So that's just now giving it a bit of a furry feel, for want of a better technical word. I could have ripped that, but I'm just going to snip it and just pull some threads to make it look like it's been ripped. Now, in addition, I'm going to jump on my sewing machine and whiz around that just so that I have that decorative stitch element. I can't do it at the moment because it's wet and I don't want to waste your time. But what I'm going to also do is I'm going to find the middle there roughly, and I'm going to glue this down. Like so, and let that glue, and then once I've stitched around that, that will glue there, so there'll be even more holding that tie into position. Okay, so that is some homework to finish off the little folio. Our pockets end, so there's nothing else I would do to that other than stuff it full of goodies. And, you know, even if you decided that you didn't want to do anything with these little elements, they potentially could be put into the little journal, and you could do a Midori style hinge here with a little piece of, let me grab this, a little piece of, put the pin in the art glitter glue, add a little bit of elastic like so through there, through our Midori styling, and then these little pieces could go in here for the person that gets the journal to play with, so that they can stitch with them, if you don't use them yourself, of course. So just another little idea for your little folio. You can just do so much with these things, and they're just handy. They're just handy. All right, so I'm going to leave that where it is. Allow all that to dry, and then the sewing machine will finish that project off. So there's not much else I'm going to do with these at this stage. What I want to work on next is just pulling together the plan for this journal cover, because I want to get stitching. So what will we do? So that's about the size we have, don't we? I think I need to, I'm going to keep a bit of this red fabric, but I do need to trim my panel back a little bit. Like neaten it up. And I still want to maintain the red. Now, if the red doesn't suit your journal, what I would do is just snip it all off and just work with the image itself. So depending on your colour scheme, you can disguise colours of fabrics pretty easily with stitches and some other laces. The Santa prompt in the Journal of Stitchery, if you're participating in that, I used a panel and it had red and I needed it to be blue. So I covered the hat with lace. I wonder if it's handy. I'll show you what I mean. So let's say you had a gorgeous panel from some fabric and you wanted it to blend in with your journal, which may be pink, for example. So you want to use your Santa. See that Santa there? He had a red hat. Let me just zoom in. He had a red hat and I covered it with calico and then covered it with some sari silk, stitched all that down and trimmed him with some lace. He had a red sleeve. I wonder if I've still got the picture in amongst these. It's the Dear Santa. It came from this set. This is just a panel of fabric I picked up at a quilt shop. I believe it was from last year. I thought she said to me that it wasn't current. No, I don't have that panel. But he had a red sleeve, so I covered that with some fabric. I covered his hat with fabric, stitched it all down and disguised the fact that he was actually red. So if you have some Santas printed or some imagery printed and you're not happy with the colours, because they don't suit your journal, you can easily disguise it. Let me come back up with the camera. Okay, but we've got plenty we can do here with this little guy. Okay, so what will we do next? I feel like he needs some more fabric behind him. I didn't really want to use this because I'm wanting to use this internally to create belly bands and tucks. So I don't want to use that. What else have I got? I've got some old doily fabric. Maybe I can use that. Let me just see what I can find here in my stash. Nothing's jumping out at me. Let's get to my bigger box of fabrics and see if we can piece together some morsels. I really want to use scraps, like no more starting new pieces of fabric because it's just getting crazy. So we've got some calico. I know that that's going to be the right height. I just feel like maybe we can pop a little bit more. This fabric is from when I made, I don't know what I made actually out of this. No, I don't think I have made anything. It's just this funny cheeseclothy thin fabric. I'm going to pop that in next. I'm just going to build up some layers. What else have we got? A lot of these bits are from doilies. They're from placemats. Like, you recognise these types of things. You see them in the Kmarts of the world all the time. They're just, it's a nice texture. So it just caught my eye. There's a bit of a doily. That there keeps jumping out at me too. I don't know where this is heading. And that's the adventure. So I do have some of these. Where's my fabric scissors? It's a mishmash. I have a bit of lace here that I don't think I like that. I do like that circle, that semicircle, but I don't know. But do I like it? Colours don't seem right to me. What else have I got in the pile? This is like a linen tablecloth. A tea towel, sorry. A tea towel. I like that stripe. It's quite strong. Maybe this needs to be a bit off center. Don't know. No. Where's my cover? Maybe that's a good start. Where is those snippets of fabric that I had in the kit? Maybe there's something here that... No, I really want to make tabs out of those for the pages. I don't want to use those. Got the words here: mistletoe, berries, evergreen. They've got potential. What's these? No, don't know what I'm going to use those for. Haven't come up with an idea. I'm wondering if... I know I have a charm. So do I turn that around? Make a cluster. Where'd this little guy go? Up here. That charm can attach to with some lace and trims. Yeah, I'm liking that. That's better. So there's my piece. So I'll get rid of that. So I think the next stage will be just get some pins into this. So you can see I've just grabbed some random rough cut bits. There's a corner missing here, doesn't matter. And if you haven't ever slow stitched, just do hashtag slow stitching and it will open up a world of stitching to you that might give you the confidence to have a go at making a fabric decorative piece to go on your journal. Now this out here is very thin. So what I'm going to do, it's a bit of a patch here of more fabric, which is going to give my piece a little bit of stability, because that's so thin. To stitch that will be quite a challenge. So I'm just going to pop that piece on there because I'm using scraps. You could cut a piece that's perfectly sized, but I like the fact that this is hanging out the bottom now. Where's my pins? And then I'll go and find some crochet cotton and just do some random stitching. So where's my journal cover? Oops, let's get that pinned up there. So little Santa has had this piece grow somewhat. I think I could comfortably snip. Whoops. I'm going to trim that back a little bit. take a snippet off of there. I wonder, I feel like that will work. It's creating quite a large, soft, textured, and then if that goes there with some embellishing on it, so on that little clip, let's get rid of these little guys. They can go with that over there because we've already got our clip here. And then we can attach to that bowl pin some more bits and bobs. Yeah, I'm liking that. Okay, so what I might do now is just with a fabric pen, give you a bit of an idea of where I would stitch next, because if I stitch this on camera with you, it will take a month of Sundays. So what I would do in this scenario, if, see these little hollies here, I might do some little green stitches in there just to give that a bit of texture. I'll do some little stitches around his whiskers to give his beard and his hat a little bit of texture. I will probably do a line of stitching just inside that red frame and maybe just outside the red frame, just to add a little bit of texture. Can you see that? Let's go in a little bit closer because we're just talking about where I would stitch. So I would do a running stitch right around the whole thing, there and there. I'll probably fray up this a little bit because it looks too cut, and then I'll do a running stitch on that inside edge. So there'll be 3 lots of stitching there. That'll really help it give that quilted look. And then all these areas around here, you could do anything from just a camphor stitch, which is just lines of stitching right through the back there, and you could use a red thread. Let's just do a rough sketch in there so you sort of get the general gist. So it'd be really pretty to have running stitch go right through there. Now what you could do is take that little piece out if you wanted and running stitch right through. But for time, let's go back up on the camera a little bit. But for time, you could leave it there and just do your running stitch where needed. You would save thread, and it would still give the impression that that running stitch was in behind this piece on the front. That'd be a nice element, I think. This little one down here sticking out, I might do the running stitch this way, because it technically is a different piece of fabric. Now there's nothing stopping you in this scenario, maybe running the running stitch included onto this piece as well. Just gives you a bit of an idea that your running stitch could incorporate 2 pieces of fabric, not just the one, which would give a lovely effect. And once again, you could remove your decorative piece and do the running stitch through there and then bring it all together underneath, or pin it as I have and then just sneak your stitches in around the place so it looks like it's all one piece. This would save you a lot of cotton. I may move this out a little bit, but I don't know. I don't want it to get too much bigger than what it is. Now, just for measurement size, remember my cover was a 4.5 inch flap coming back. This piece is close to 6.5 inches. Now, the journal at the rear is 6.5 inches. So it's basically becoming the cover, and that flap is just, it's stabilizing. So the cover is just being extended, if you will. Okay, so that's the plan. Now the other thing I want to do is work on an enclosure. Now I have some ribbon here that could be used, and that will be attached in here And then attached on the back of the journal, let's say that was cut, and that would be attached here, and you could use a doily to attach it, and then you could tie a bow here to secure the ribbon. So that's another thing you may need to source from your stash, is something to tie your journal close. You don't have to. It doesn't need a tie. Sometimes I find having ties on journals a bit of a pain, because you're constantly untying it and then it's flopping around the place. If there's children involved in the journal, maybe you don't need to. So something just to sort of have a bit of a think about is your tying of the journal close, but you may not need it. They don't have to have a tie. So I'm just going to now put all of that scrap away, because my desk has got out of control. Get all those bits. So, okay, I'm happy with the layout. I'm happy that there'll be something here to sneak in that top corner. And I think that's a good start. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish the video there. Before I go, I just want to grab some cotton and show you what I would use. I'm using a lot of these colours in the Journal of Stitchery project, so I've got handy some cottons. I'm just going to grab them out just to show you what you could use. Now, if you don't want to have pins in your way, you could do what we call invisible stitch, which is usually my next step, where I just grab some sewing machine cotton and I thread up a needle. So if you're new to sewing or slow stitch, this is another little technique you can do to prepare your piece for slow stitch. And it allows you to get rid of the needles. So there's some cottons that I've been using recently. Let's just come up in the camera. Crochet cotton, number 8. Gives you a nice thickness. Let's get rid of the journal. These are just DMC stranded cottons. I would probably use all 6 strands, but the cotton can be broken down. Like there's 6 little strands in there. You see them all? So if you're doing really fine work, you can get 2 out, 1 out, 3 out, 4 out. But in this case, for the camphor stitching, I would probably just use the 6. But my go-to would be some crochet cotton. Now, because I hate pins, I'm just going to do some little invisible stitches. Let me grab my wool mat out, because I can hear my ring chinking. And I really love working on these wool mats when I'm stitching. So if you don't have one of these, they're often called wool ironing mats, because you can iron on them, and the quilters use them to iron all of their cut fabrics before sewing. And because they're small, it's just easier to have one of these beside you than a ironing board. So I'm just going to do some little invisible stitches. Now you can really have fun with these types of pieces for the front of your journal. I find this more fun than the actual inside of the journal, because you can just do so much with slow stitch. I knew I'd drag slow stitch into this, so now I can get rid of that pin because I've put these tiny little stitches. Now, invisible stitch is a tiny little stitch this side where all your pretties are, but on the bottom you can jump through a good centimetre. So the first stitch is there, second is coming up through there. So if you're new to slow stitch, welcome. This is a rabbit hole. So I've just got tiniest little stitch, you'd never know. I'm now going to jump over here in behind and do another little stitch. So you can do as many of these or as few depending on how secure you want your bits and bobs. I'm going to start by just securing the image. If I do a whip around the perimeter of this Santa, it should catch most of the pieces. So now I can get rid of that pin. So that's why you can patch together scraps in the back of your needlework, because these little stitches will hold it all together and no one need know that you've used scraps in behind, which is so much fun, getting rid of scraps. Once I get the background stitched down, and this is what I'd class as that, we've got our main image, we've got some big pieces of fabric in behind, we're just securing the background. Then you start thinking about your decorative stitches. So that's the end of that cotton. So I'm just going to knot that off on the back. I think if you're watching this series and you're a journal maker, you'll have a general feel for what you can do within your pages. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time within the journal. You can personalize it, and at the end of the day, like me, this journal will be done up as a package to gift to someone who will play. We've made an ephemera folio for all the bits and pieces to go into, which I'll have to cut and do for the next video. We've got our pages secured within the cover via the MIDORI style binding. You might be stitching yours in. I do want to decorate a few more little elements that can be added to the package, like using those napkins on some of those envelopes and things like that. So I think the next video will be showing you what I've done here, and then we will start making just some random little morsels to be added to the journal. I should be stitching that in the cream area because I can just see my stitches there. That's better. Now I might just, I'm pretty sure I've gone right around. Yep. I'm up in this top corner. So what I might do is I'm going to head across to here with these little stitches. And then we're pretty much ready to stitch. Now, if you have some little beads and some buttons, you could embellish your piece. So there's sort of 3 stages. Create your background, which is what we've just done. Secure your background elements with some invisible stitches. So now you've got rid of all your pins. And then start putting in some basic stitching, like your running stitch, which is also helping to secure your background. Then you start to embellish. So once you've got your background stitched, it's just then coming back and adding all your pretty bits. So your buttons, your beads, your bits of lace, more stitches. If you want to stitch something that then gets attached, what I mean by that, let's say you decide to stitch some holly, for example. Where's a piece of calico? I'm off on a tangent again. Here's a piece of calico. Let's say you're lacking in embellishments that are Christmassy, so you've got to create your own. So let's have a go at making some holly. So holly's got quite an unusual leaf. I always remember it's that curve. Now you could cut some holly out of some felt or create your own with a little stitchery. So let's see what we can do. This is a heat pen, so add heat and the pen disappears. But I will warn you that one lovely lady pointed out that she had used it in a project and it came back. Now that's a bit disappointing to hear, but if you're, say, gentle with your pressure on the pen and just do a soft line, maybe the heat will take it away. I don't know. but it could be a problem in the future, especially if you framed a piece. Oh my goodness, wouldn't that be? I wonder. No, don't go into those. I want to make tabs out of them. I was picturing cutting out some of those pieces, but I don't think I will. So I've drawn my holly. I now can stitch that with some green thread and then maybe rip it out even more. You might break it down into some smaller elements. Let's say you cut them out and ripped and made it all messy like this edge, and then you could use those little elements on your journal to create some 3D embellishments. I'm sort of picturing actually then some buttons, red buttons that would look like the berries of actual holly. So I'm thinking I'm going to do that down in this area here. Let's stitch these with a bit of green thread and then cut and rip them out even more, and then use them as little decorative pieces, and then some buttons in there as well. You could use them on a crocheted motif as a bit extra embellishment with some buttons. Yeah, I'm liking that idea too. So I've got a few ideas here. Where's that bucket of bits that I have been using for the project? The journal stitchery, because I've got buttons in here. Some little red buttons could easily be added, especially if you've got a few in different sizes, or just layered them too, and maybe some beads. Get some red beads and stitch a cluster in there. Where's that little, this little thing? So you could make a cluster out of all of these little bits and some beads and use that as your embellishment where the holly was coming out. Yeah, I like that. I'm going to do that. So I'll put that aside. I'm going to need them. I don't have any green cotton handy, but I will need it. So I'm just going to jump up and grab my embroidery flosses, and let's pick a nice bright green. I like him. He's cute, and I can do a little bit of embroidery in that space there. I'll grab a dark one as well, just in case I want to muck around with tone. Okay, so there's a few ideas for you guys to create a little embellishment piece with some holly to add to your background once you've done your background stitching. These little tabs, my thoughts with these is just to do some camphor stitching on it. I'm just looking for my crochet cotton that is cream, which I can't see. So I'm just going to show you. Gosh, I'm not prepared, am I? Like, this is what happens. I go off on these creative tangents. Now, you could just fold that in half, run some stitching through, and you've got your, here's some crochet cotton. It's thicker than this, but it will still work because it'll look gorgeous and chunky. But what I'm thinking of doing is I want to make this tab feel bigger than what it actually is, especially if you've only got a morsel of fabric. This is how I would enlarge it. Gosh, there's some homework to do here, which is great because I was looking for something I could stitch this evening. So I'm going to put that onto there. I'm also going to rough this up so it's not so neat cut, because we don't like neat. This was a little charm pack that I've had for ages, and I thought I was going to make something quiltish out of it, but never happened. So I'm so pleased that I'm dipping into some of these supplies, like making the kits was a bit of a de-stash for me as well. So I've got quite a thick-eyed needle here because I'm using quite a thick crochet cotton. So what I might do, I'm going to do a knot but leave a tail like so. So it looks like a little thread is hanging. I'm then going to fold this in half and coming back from that edge, maybe about that, I'm just going to run a stitch through. Now you could do all sorts of stitches here. You could do fly stitch, feather stitch. I'm just going to do running stitch for time so that you guys sort of know where I'm heading with this. And I'm going to come up here. So the fold is here. Now I'm going to scoot across the top like so. So there's the stitch coming back across the top. And then I'm going to come down. So just thinking about this going as a gift, you could make one of these and then prepare the ingredients needed for the remainder, and they finish them. So now I'm going to finish that off with just a wrap knot like so, and I'm going to snip it out here because I want that knot to be part of the charm of it. So let's say you were giving this as a gift, you would grab your calico and pre-prepare all of these. So you could do all of them and cut and trim them so that they're ready for them to do this little project, which I'm thinking I might do actually. And maybe we create an envelope for this little project to sit in. So let's say that is now stitched. We're going to make one. That then opens up and that then gets glued onto the edge of a journal page. Okay, so let's grab a journal page. For example, let's attach that right there. So we've now got a little tab ready to go. So it's just a case of adding some glue, and that would be glued into position. So let's do that. How are we going for time? We are getting on a little bit, so I'm going to just quickly do this and then I'm going to have to finish the video. But there's some tabs for your pages for you, or create a little project out of them. So whoever gets your journal knows exactly what to do. So these would be prepared with the calico underneath, and you could give them a needle, you could give them some thread. These are little bobbins. You could make a bobbin, wind some of this cream thread onto the bobbin, and that would be all with your little project. And where's that envelope we made, guys? This envelope. In here would be everything that they need as the little project, and then they can make their own tabs to go on their own page, and you've shown them what to do. Now a small person could handle that easily, and then they can make some more and add them to the other pages throughout the journal. So that's what I'm going to do with the little squares. Now for those of you who didn't get a kit, those squares, just for your own information, 2.5 inch by 2.5 inch. And then it's just a case of laying a piece of fabric underneath it just to make it a little bit bigger, a little bit more interesting. Rip and snip. You could use lace to back your decorative pieces. If you wanted to make more tabs, there's nothing stopping you cutting those in half and just using this as the tab. And then these are little decorative pieces that gets added to it. Yeah, that would work beautifully too. Slice that in half, but I won't. Stay true to my ingredients. I'm just going to snip and rip that. So if you felt that the person getting your journal wasn't able to do that type of stitching, well, you could prepare them all and then they can just pull them out of their little envelope and add them wherever they want them to go. So something to think about in the way of creating little activities within your journal for them to do. And fabric tabs is a beauty. They're a lot of fun. Okay, everyone, I'm going to stop the video there because I'm sure I've gone over time, and I will see you in the next video. I've got plenty of homework here, and I'll see you all shortly. Bye for now.